been affected by drunk driving in some way. Bringing forth this bill to committee will enable my colleague and others to consider it. We'll make sure that the right measures are being adopted, Madam Speaker. The honourable member for Mégantic-Lérable will have 2 minutes and 30 seconds for questions and comments after question period.
Statements by members. The
honourable member for Brassard, Saint-Laurent.
Madam Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to offer my heartfelt congratulations to the Canadian Federation of Humane Societies as it celebrates its 60th anniversary this year. CFHS is the only national organisation that represents humane societies and SPCAs in Canada. Canadians depend on these organizations to care for abused animals, to enforce laws, to educate, and to celebrate the human-animal bond.
The protection of animal well-being is one of our country's oldest social institutions. It was founded just 2 years after Confederation. The first SPCA was founded in Montreal in 1869, and it's still active today. Animal well-being is a cause that I take to heart, both as a person as a parliamentarian.
Institutions such as CFHS, their dedicated volunteers and their invaluable work over the decades deserve our recognition and gratitude as they continue to care for and speak on behalf of those who do not have the voice to do so themselves.
Once again, Madam Speaker, congratulations to CFHS.
The honourable member for Caribou Prince George.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Once again, I rise in this House to talk about an issue that has touched all of our lives, and that is cancer. Last Saturday, I had the opportunity to participate in the 25th annual 24-hour Canadian Cancer Society Relay for Life, where over $535,000 was raised towards the goal of creating a world where no Canadian, no human, ever has to live in fear of the word cancer. Mr. Speaker, or Madam Speaker, we're incredibly proud of our local Relay for Life. It is the #1 Relay for Life in Canada. It's the only 24-hour Relay for Life in Canada. And for over the last 25 years, we've raised over $7 million towards cancer research. Madam Speaker, my goal was to beat my fundraising total and to once again walk the entire 24 hours. I did both. While walking the full 24 hours and over 95 kilometers, I was joined for laps by those currently fighting for their lives and friends and family walking in memory of those who lost their fight. I want to say thank you to my team, Team Peter Pitt, thank you to the volunteers and organizers of the relay, and thank you to the friends and families and organizers, communities that helped make this event so successful.
The honourable member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Madam Speaker, it's a pleasure to rise today to recognize a constituent of mine, Michaela Hines. Just a few weeks ago, she won her 7th World Irish Dancing Championship in Dublin, adding to her already impressive resume. In addition to her 7 World Championships, Michaela has been the Eastern Canadian Champion of Irish Dancing 12 times, has been the North American Champion 10 times, the British Champion 4 times, the Scottish Champion, and the All-Ireland Champion 4 times. After a career that makes her the most decorated North American in the history of World Irish Dancing Championships, Michaela has decided to retire. Through her success, Michaela has made her community and country proud. On behalf of all of Mississauga-Streetsville, I congratulate Michaela on her impressive dancing career and wish her nothing but the best in the future. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kootenay-Columbia.
Madam Speaker, I love biking. It's good for your body, good for your soul, and good for the planet. And I want to highlight some great biking events coming up in my riding and here on the Hill. From May 29th to June 4th, people all across Kootenay-Columbia will be taking part in BC's Bike to School and Work Week. In Fernie, Revelstoke, Kimberley, Cranbrook, and Nelson, teams of riders will be competing for great prizes donated by amazing small businesses. Bike Day here on the Hill is June 1st, an exciting event that encourages all MPs and senators to come cycling by providing bicycles and support for new and experienced riders. And this summer, I look forward to biking with my constituents on the Trans-Canada Trail to celebrate Canada's 150th birthday, and in the Kootenay Rockies Grand Fondo on September 9th. Please come and join us. There are few things as spectacular as riding through the Rocky, Purcell, and Selkirk Mountains in one of the most beautiful ridings in Canada. Together, let's make Canada a cycling nation. Thank you.
The honourable member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Madam Speaker, I was pleased to announce $5.3 million for Nelson House, a women's shelter in my riding that has served our community since 1992. providing a safe space for nearly 120 of our community's most vulnerable women and children each year. The new facility will provide a private, supportive space for survivors of domestic violence that is twice the size of the existing facility. It will improve and expand on-site services and programs. I met some of the courageous women who credit Nelson House with allowing them to rebuild their lives free from violence. The
budget allocates $11.2 billion in investments towards the new national housing strategy. Affordable housing is more than just a place to live. It lays a foundation for greater social and economic growth.
The honourable member for Flamborough-Glanbrook.
Speaker, with the beautiful spring weather sweeping through Flamborough-Glanbrook and across the country, you can be sure that motorcyclists will hit the streets to enjoy the open roads. There are close to 1 million motorcyclists in Canada today, including grandmothers, grandfathers, youth and young adults. Riders come from every walk of life and every profession. Some ride alone, while some ride with family and friends. Motorcyclists are among the most generous members of our communities. They raise and donate more than $13 million every year. I see this generosity firsthand every year, serving as the honorary chair for the JNF Correctional Officers Motorcycle Ride and the Liberty for Youth Eagle Ride, and taking part in the Veterans Memorial Ride here in Ottawa. Speaker, the Motorcyclist Confederation of Canada has launched a campaign that notes that motorcycle safety is everyone's responsibility. Motorcyclists, passengers, motorists, friends and family members can go to motorcycling.ca and take the Motorcycle Safety Pledge today. Since May is Motorcycle Safety Month, I ask all motorists to keep an eye out for motorcycles and bid all motorcyclists a happy and safe riding season.
The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard. Madam Speaker, I recently had the pleasure of celebrating the 50th anniversary of Volunteer West Island in Montreal. Its mission is to facilitate and promote volunteerism while training volunteers to meet the needs of our community.
Volunteer West Island supports so many services, including Meals on Wheels, the PAIR program, Handy Persons Services, Caring Paws Therapy, and much more. On a more personal note, I know firsthand of the great work that is done in my riding by helping seniors and low-income constituents to do their tax returns. So I say a great big thank you to Linda Barrett and her entire team at Volunteer West Island, as well as to all the wonderful volunteers. Together, they have made our community a better place to live in over the last 50 years. Thank you.
The honourable member for West Vancouver Sunshine Coast Sea Sky Country.
Thank you. 2 weeks ago, Liz Bird won the West Vancouver Chamber of Commerce Lifetime Achievement Award. Liz is the foundation of education, the arts, civic engagement, environmental conservation, and women in politics in West Vancouver. She's a founder of Collingwood School and of the Kamiq Arts Centre Trust. She fought the battle to save Eagle Ridge Bluffs to the point of being arrested, the penalty for which was community service hours, the ultimate irony. She has literally led and supported thousands of volunteers. I would like to say that her dedication has created remarkable Canadian institutions and even more remarkable people for having had the privilege of volunteering with Liz. It is a privilege to rise in the House of Commons today and recognize Liz Bird on behalf of an immensely grateful community as an exceptional citizen of Canada. Thank you.
The honourable member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Madam Speaker, on May 3rd, the residents of Fort McMurray gathered at Snipe Park to remember the wildfire that ravaged the city just one short year ago. For some, it was a day of mourning where they remember life before the fire, and many moments of silence for Emily Ryan and Aaron Hodgson, who died fleeing the fire. And for others, it was a day to embrace the strength of our community. While the community and city continues to rebuild and heal, support groups are still active on the ground. The local Red Cross continues to do an outstanding job, helping people put their lives back together. In some cases, people rebuild their homes. In other cases, offering assistance to families still struggling. I would like to take this opportunity once again to thank everyone who offered assistance or donated to the cause, and thank the Red Cross in particular for their dedication and life-changing efforts. The people of Fort McMurray, above all, will be forever grateful.
The honourable member for Canada Carleton.
Madam Speaker, as all Canadians know, there are not 4 seasons in Canada, there are 5. And we are now well into playoff hockey season. And communities across Canada are watching and cheering. A lifelong Habs fan, Montreal Canadiens, our own Prime Minister has told us he is now cheering for the Ottawa Senators. And I'm sure all of my colleagues will join with the Prime Minister in pledging their support to the Ottawa Senators as they continue their remarkable playoff run. I'm very proud that the Senators call my riding of Kanata-Carleton their home. Madam Speaker, as we celebrate the great tradition of playoff hockey in Canada, I call upon all members, and indeed all Canadians, to join me in saying to the Senators, we are all in. Tous ensemble, go Sens, go!
The Honourable Member for Acadie-Bathurst. Madam Speaker, I rise to congratulate an extraordinary person, Roberta Dugas, who was crowned Citizen of the Year in my riding of Acadie-Bathurst. Roberta is from Caraquet, and specifically from Sainte-Anne-de-Bocage, and she's very active in her community, and she never misses an opportunity to promote her city, Caraquet, and the entire Acadian Peninsula. Her ongoing involvement in her community has earned her the title of Citizen of the Year, and she has worked as a nurse in the peninsula for over 35 years. She was a municipal councillor before being elected mayor of Caraquet in 1992. But above all, Madam Speaker, as president of the 2016 Acadian Games Finals Organizing Committee, Ms. Dugas moved heaven and earth to recruit and manage hundreds of volunteers to ensure the event's success. It's because of people like Madame Dugas that our region continues to prosper and succeed. So, bravo, Roberta. You are a source of inspiration for us all. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Yorkton Melville.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. Florence Tetrault is a wonderful 103-year-old woman who was born in the beautiful community of St. Bruce, Saskatchewan, located in my riding of Yorkton Melville. Florence has been in the news a lot lately. As it turns out, at the age of 103, she's still regularly attending Mass and playing bridge. She even offers her services as a seamstress to the other residents in her retirement community. Wow. Florence is not alone in her youthful zeal for embracing life past 100. According to Statistics Canada data, the number of Saskatchewan residents who are celebrating their 100th birthday has almost doubled since 2001. Many of the seniors in my riding attribute this to their healthy lifestyle, positive forward-thinking attitude, and of course, the wonderful carbon-free air in Saskatchewan. Madam Speaker, I guess you could just say that Saskatchewan is the fountain of youth, the Okinawa Island of Canada.
The honourable member for London West.
Madam Speaker, on May 4th, the Canadian Medical Hall of Fame inducted 6 renowned medical pioneers from across Canada to its membership. Located in London, Ontario, the contributions of Hall of Fame inductees have been extraordinary. As trailblazers in their respective fields, these experts underpin Canada's role as a world-class leader in medicine and health sciences. Their work may be a single outstanding contribution or a career of notable achievements. It is with this, Madam Speaker, and with a heavy heart that I note the passing of Professor Michael Bliss, a 2016 inductee and an individual who left an indelible mark on Canada. An officer of the Order of Canada, a Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada, and professor at the University of Toronto for nearly 4 decades, Professor Bliss touched the lives of many, mine among them, as I had the good fortune of interviewing him as a journalist. Noted as one of Canada's leading intellectuals and historians, he was commended for bringing a wealth of knowledge to Canada and...
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Madam Speaker, I rise to celebrate the leadership of entrepreneurs in the Greater Drummondville area. Organized by the Drummond Chamber of Commerce and Industry, entrepreneurship was celebrated at the prestigious Napoleon's Gala for 2017. I would like to congratulate all of the winners. The Business of the Year award was given to Cascade de Carton Caisse Drummondville. In the commerce category, Performance NC was the winner. The Bijouterie Lampron earned the local favorite award. The Haunted Village at the Village Québécois d'Antan earned honors in the events and tourism category. In the agri-food category, the prize was given to Cultures de Chez Nous. In the young entrepreneur category, Anne Hydra was the winner. And finally, athlete Elizabeth Pellerin and cyclist Hugo Hull, who participated in the Rio Olympics, earned the Male and Female Leader of the Year awards. Congratulations to all the finalists and to all the winners.
The honourable member for Foothills.
Madam Speaker, I rise in the House today to speak about the dire situation facing my home province. When I say Albertans are losing their homes and losing their jobs, I'm not exaggerating. Over the past year in Alberta, almost 6,000 homes have been foreclosed, more than 2,000 of those in Calgary alone. Calgary's unemployment rate is still the highest of any major Canadian city at 9.3%. Many Albertans, including myself, have given up any hope that the Liberals are interested in Alberta, Canada's economic engine. The Prime Minister said he was going to phase out the oil sands. Well, he is certainly following through on that threat. Dismantling the NEB, moving the regulator from Calgary to Ottawa, slashing the Discovery Well tax credit, a tanker moratorium, imposing a job-killing federal carbon tax. The Liberals' disregard for Alberta is certainly clear. Madam Speaker, the Liberals need to make Canada globally competitive. They can do it by following these simple lessons: reducing red tape, cut taxes, get projects built. Doing these things will help our energy sector and will help Albertans get back to work.
The Honourable Member for Argenteuil-La-Petite-Nation.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to recognize the 30th anniversary of Rick Hansen Man in Motion Tour. Rick Hansen is in steam over 26 months, crossed 40,000 kilometers through 34 cities to raise awareness for spinal cord research and quality of life initiative. Mr. Hansen a terminé sa tournée.
Mr. Hansen's world tour may have ended 30 years ago, but his work and his impact on Canada continues to this day. The Rick Hansen Foundation works to raise awareness and eliminate obstacles for persons with disabilities. Although Canada is a world leader in promoting equality and inclusion for persons with disabilities, there is still much to be done.
This is why this government is working on new accessibility legislation to promote equality of opportunity and increase inclusion for all Canadians with disabilities. Our government congratulates Mr. Hansen and this anniversary for this continuing work. Thank you, Mr. Hansen.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Official Opposition House Leader.
Madam Speaker, Madeleine Mayer is a well-connected Liberal partisan and politician who has donated numerous times to the Liberal Party and even donated to the Prime Minister's leadership campaign. So let's be clear. The reason the Prime Minister wants her to be the next Languages Commissioner is so that he can thank her for all of her support, and he wants to assure himself that he has somebody friendly in the position. This is really shady, and it's certainly wrong in every sense of the word. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and withdraw this patronage appointment?
L'Honorable.
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Official Languages Commissioner in the protection and the promotion of official languages. We're committed to finding the best candidate for this important position through a thorough, rigorous, and merit-based process. We conducted multiple rounds of interviews. I even had the chance to talk with my critics from the two opposition parties. They both acknowledged that she had the experience and the expertise, and that's why we're convinced Madeleine Mayer is the best suited candidate for this important position. Merci.
The Honourable Official Opposition House Leader.
Well, even the Liberal minister is hesitant to get up and try to defend that appointment. I don't blame her. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal appointment gravy train is shamefully extending to the judiciary. The latest round of judicial appointments is full of Liberal donors, including an Alberta appointment of a person who's donated to the Liberal Party over 25 times, including twice just this year, Madam Speaker. Wow. When will the Prime Minister admit that he actually doesn't care about the appearance of conflict of interest, and he'd rather reward his friends for their generous support of his "I'll scratch yours if you scratch mine" government?
Honourable. The Honourable Secretary Parliamentaire.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
on this side of the House is proud of the appointments that we're making within the judiciary. Since being elected, we have appointed 67 judges, including additional appointments which are forthcoming. Under our open, merit-based appointments process, we have attracted top-tier judicial appointments. Budget 2017 provides for additional resources, and we will continue to make those appointments with great dispatch, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Well, open to anyone who's given a donation to the Liberal Party. That's the only openness that we're seeing. It's clear that the Prime Minister's patronage appointment scheme, if you're not a Liberal and you're not giving a donation, there's no use applying. Liberal donors are clearly making their way to the very top of the appointment list. Merit has become secondary to donations to the Liberal Party. How can the Prime Minister expect Canadians to believe that it's just a coincidence that all of these Liberal donors are somehow getting these plum appointments?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Well, Madam Speaker, I will reiterate what I've said before on many occasions. We are proud on this side of the House of the open, merit-based appointments process. Not only have we appointed 67 new judges since being elected, but there are over 120 public appointments, which again are open, transparent, and merit-based, and we will continue to make those appointments with great dispatch, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Madam Speaker, for 18 months, there's been a new lottery to let Canadians win big, $500, $700, up to $1,000 per workday for the luckiest ones. There's already many winners in Canada, Stéphane Zion, John McCallum, and Madeleine Meyer. And it's not over. The lottery is going on until 2019. Unfortunately, this lottery is only for the elite. To participate, make a big donation to the Liberal Party of Canada. The next big prize is the position of Ethics Commissioner with the firm Government Leader and Associates. Will the government end this partisan lottery before the next draw?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it's important that we recognize that we have, in fact, put in place a new appointment process which supports open, transparent, and merit-based selection process. Our aim is to identify highly quality candidates who will help to achieve gender parity and truly reflect Canada's diversity. It's important to note, Madam Speaker, 140 appointments, 63% are women, 13% are visible minority, 10% are Indigenous. The Conservatives should be applauding the type of appointments we are actually making.
I just want to remind the members of the opposition of the decorum in the House, and I would anticipate that you want to hear the question and you'd also want to hear the response.
The Honourable Member from Montmagny, Liselec, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Liberals promised an open and transparent process to appoint a new official languages commissioner. But they made the most partisan of appointments I've ever seen. Madeleine Meyer, who was already shopping for a Senate seat as she was sitting in Queen's Park, openly admitted before a committee that she was contacted by Gerald Butts and Katie Telford, all of whom were working for the Prime Minister during the selection process. That's called getting a Plan B ready. Will the government finally admit that this appointment was just a consolation prize of $350,000 a year to help a good friend of the Liberal Party? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Madam Speaker. We believe in the importance of the Official Languages Commissioner in order to promote both languages in the country, and we decided to look for the best candidate by using a rigorous, open, merit-based process. We made many interviews. I even had the opportunity to talk to the official opposition critic and the critic from the second opposition party, and they recognized that Ms. Mayotte had the qualifications needed for the job, as well as the expertise and experience. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister decided to appoint Madeleine Meyer as Official Languages Commissioner. This is an individual who made financial contributions to the Prime Minister's leadership campaign. As Commissioner, Ms. Meyer would be responsible for investigating the Prime Minister when he does not comply with the Official Languages Act. Yesterday, Ms. Mayotte admitted herself that she could not erase 13 years of partisan political life. How can we be sure that this Liberal will be nonpartisan when she will have to investigate the Prime Minister? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. we found the best candidate for the position of Official Languages Commissioner. And why? Because we know that she has made the protection of L'Hôpital Montfort, the Francophone Hospital in Ottawa, a priority. We also know that she was the driving force behind other initiatives. She has the experience to be the commissioner, and we hope that we will have the support of the opposition and the Senate in order to confirm this important appointment. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. Regardless, Ms. Meilleur is too close to the Liberals. She worked for 13 years in partisan politics with the Liberal Party of Ontario. She made donations not only to the Liberal Party of Canada, but to the Prime Minister himself. She admitted to meeting the Prime Minister's closest allies to get the position. How can the Minister of Heritage continue to defend this process, which led to the selection of a longtime Liberal? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Madam Speaker, when we were looking for the best candidate for the position of Official Languages Commissioner, we wanted to make sure that we would find a person based on their experience and their expertise. That's exactly what we did. We have a rigorous, open, merit-based process. Ms. Meilleur is clearly qualified through this process, and that's why we insist that she has all the expertise she needs in order to be an excellent Official Languages Commissioner.
Madam Speaker, the lengths these Liberals will go to help out their friends. A lifelong Liberal and donor to the Prime Minister's own leadership campaign is their surprise choice for an independent commissioner. This Prime Minister has been under more investigations than any other Prime Minister in Canadian history. Harper, Chrétien, even Brian Mulroney somehow. Yesterday, Madame Meilleur admitted she may have to recuse herself from investigating the Prime Minister because of these donations. Imagine a commissioner that can't investigate. Was this their plan all along or just some happy coincidence?
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Mr. Speaker, when we started this process, we were looking for the right candidate because that candidate had to have the qualification, the expertise, the experience to be the Commissioner for Official Languages in this country. And you know what? This is surprising, Mrs. Speaker, that the two oppositions are not contesting the qualification of Madeleine Meilleur, not at all. Even the leader of the second opposition has clearly stated that she had the expertise and the experience for this important position.
Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
We also learned yesterday that the Prime Minister's closest advisor and longtime friend, Jerry Butts, met with Meilleur before she was even nominated. She admitted this was an unfair advantage. I guess it's still who you know in the PMO. Officers of Parliament don't work for the Prime Minister, and they certainly don't work for the Prime Minister's office. They work for all members of Parliament on behalf of Canadians. A watchdog can't do their job with a cloud of patronage and partisanship hanging over their heads. So out of respect for this position, will the Liberals do the right thing and withdraw her name from consideration?
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Canadians are looking forward for this important position to be filled. And Canadians believe in the importance of official languages. What they want somebody that has the expertise and the experience to hold this important position. And I'm really surprised to see how much my colleagues are supporting the expertise and experience of Mrs. Meilleur. And therefore, I don't understand why they shouldn't be supportive of this important candidacy, because this important position must be fulfilled by an important...
I just, again, want to remind the members of the opposition to please ensure that they respect the decorum that should be held here in the House. The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Madam Speaker, the Liberal carbon tax is a game of hide and go seek. The cost of the carbon tax is hidden in the price of groceries transported by truck, or gasoline that people put in their vehicles, or the cost of heating their home to stay alive. All of those things are hidden, and when we seek the real cost, we find that it is again hidden under a mountain of black ink in Finance Department documents. The Liberals yesterday released a 26-page technical document on their new carbon tax, but once again, hidden was the cost to Canadian families. Will they end their game of hide-and-go-seek today and tell average Canadian families what the carbon tax will cost them?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Canadians know that polluting is not free. We see the costs of droughts, of floods, extreme weather events, but also the effect on our health. Canadians expect polluters to pay because it's the right thing to do for our children and for our grandchildren. Mr. Speaker, 97% of Canadians already live in jurisdictions in Canada that either have a price on carbon pollution or are in the process of putting that into place. The federal plan announced yesterday applies only in jurisdictions that have not moved there themselves. Pricing of carbon pollution will reduce pollution. It creates incentives for companies to innovate, to develop clean solutions. It creates...
Member for Carleton.
Well, they say this is really a simple way to reduce pollution. Let me quote the document. If a registered fuel importer imports fuel for delivery to a registered fuel distributor, the levy will not become payable by the registered fuel importer. The levy will become payable by the registered fuel distributor when it uses the fuel or delivers it to another person in the backstop jurisdiction, unless that other person is also a registered fuel distributor. See? Simple. Madam Speaker, how much will it cost small businesses for the red tape of this new scheme, and how much will it cost taxpayers for the new bureaucracy needed to implement?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Madam Speaker, addressing climate change is one of the critical issues of our time. This government is committed to creating a more innovative economy that reduces emissions while creating good middle-class jobs. If the honourable member would actually take the time to read the backstop paper, he would see that those figures are in that document. This government has been actively working with all provinces and territories, including the government of Saskatchewan. I was there myself this week for conversations with large companies. We are working to build a plan that will allow us to move forward in a credible way to reduce carbon emissions and to grow a clean growth economy.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Madam Speaker, did the Parliamentary Secretary read the documents? Because all the documents that were revealed yesterday by the Minister of Environment are a document that supported Liberal carbon tax. There's all kinds of numbers in there and things that we don't understand in it. But there's one number we don't have. What is it going to cost for Canadian workers? The Parliament Secretary is telling us to read the document, but can he tell us in the document the most important number for Canadians? How much is it going to cost, your Liberal carbon tax? I will remind the member that he must direct the question through the chair and not to the government or to the individual.
Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would once again invite my honourable colleagues to read the document. All of the relevant information is contained in the document. I'd be happy to actually show the honourable member after question period is over. Mr. Speaker, the net cost to Canadians obviously depends in significant measure on what provinces who have implemented these systems choose to do with the revenues. In Alberta, they've returned those through rebates. In British Columbia, they have a carbon-neutral tax where they reduce it, where they return the funds through income tax reductions. Mr. Speaker, we have a thoughtful plan. Those of us on this side of the House believe climate change is a real issue. We are planning to address that in a thoughtful way.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent.
No number, not money. How it will cost to the Canadian taxpayer? Madame la Présidente, il y a un autre problème.
Madam Speaker, there's another problem. Yesterday, we know that the government was proud to say that the Liberals are working with the provinces. Really? 3 provinces are working on the issue of carbon through an exchange system, and since 2013, that system has not been working in Quebec. The Minister of the Environment said that if it doesn't work, we're going to impose the Liberal carbon tax on the provinces. Can somebody in the government tell us today whether, yes or no, they're going to impose the Liberal carbon tax on all the provinces?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Madam Speaker, the honourable member knows full well that 97% of Canadians live in jurisdictions that have either put into place a plan to price carbon pollution or are in the process of working to have that in place by the beginning of 2018. We have worked collaboratively with the provinces. This was a central part of the Pan-Canadian Framework on Clean Growth and Climate Change, to which almost all of the provinces subscribed. We are working to ensure that this is done in a thoughtful way, and we intend to ensure that we are addressing climate change and carbon emissions, but doing so in a manner that will help us to grow an innovative and clean growth economy for the future.
The honourable member for Foothills.
Well, let's talk about the impact of this thoughtful way. In Alberta, foreclosure rates are rising at an alarming rate. In fact, more than 25% in the last 2 years alone. Dismantling the NEB, politicizing infrastructure decisions, implementing a carbon tax. These are all Liberal policies that are stifling any ability for Alberta's economic recovery. Canada needs the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Will the Prime Minister go to BC? Will he champion this vital pipeline project, or will he continue on his quest of eliminating the oil sands and killing jobs in Alberta and the rest of Canada?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank the member opposite for the opportunity for me to stand and provide, I think, a very clear statement. The assertion from the member opposite is categorically false. We took action to create good middle-class jobs for Alberta by approving 2 pipelines, getting done what they couldn't get done in 10 years. We'll continue to support Alberta as an energy hub of Canada. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Speaker, Calgary has been the beating heart of the energy sector for decades. Professionals in Calgary have immense knowledge and experience in pipeline safety, oil and gas exploration, and environmental reclamation. Moving the NEB from Calgary to an ivory tower in Ottawa is not the answer. Will these Liberals commit to keeping the NEB decision-making in Calgary, or will they finally admit that they don't want the oil and gas and energy industry to thrive?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I'd like to thank the NEB expert panel for their hard work in drafting this report. Our government is committed to developing our resources and getting them to market in a responsible way. This requires a regulatory process that Canadians can have confidence in. Modernizing the NEB is part of our government's process to build a better system that is fair, robust, respects the right of Indigenous peoples, is based on scientific evidence, and protects our environment for generations to come. We will review the report in depth along with other environmental regulatory reviews and determine next steps. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kootenay, Columbia.
Madam Speaker, when someone who has been a victim of domestic violence applies for the CRA child tax benefit, they are burdened with an onerous and impossible requirement. CRA expects the victim to return to the abuser to obtain a signature for the application. This is an outrageous and even dangerous requirement for domestic abuse survivors who are trying to build a better, safer life for their families. Will the Liberals do the right thing, drop this unreasonable demand, and support survivors rather than empowering their abusers?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development.
Our government's commitment on 2 fronts is unparalleled in this parliamentary history. One is on the child benefit. The other one is on support for victims of violence fleeing and seeking better shelter and protection. On the issue that's being raised, it's a significant issue, and I assure you we'll get a specific answer to the specific issues around tax and point of return. That's an issue which is just being raised today, and I'm happy to sit with the member and get the proper result. But on the child benefit, we're raising kids out of poverty. On victims of violence, we're supporting them. We need to make sure those 2 programs work in concert together.
The honourable member for Hochelaga.
I think, but it has to be done very quickly. Madame la Présidente, selon les règles en place.
Madam Speaker, according to the rules currently in place, a domestic violence survivor is being told by the Canada Revenue Agency that she has to contact her abuser for him to fill out a form if she wants to get the child tax benefit. That's completely absurd and it's dangerous. This requirement must be abolished. Will the Minister of National Revenue deal with the problem immediately and apologize to the victims of domestic violence?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Oh, sorry, the Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, happy Friday to you and all my colleagues in this House. I thank my honourable colleagues for bringing this issue to our attention. I can assure you that all policies, programs and legislation that come through Cabinet and eventually to this House are put through a gender-based analysis plus. This issue is exactly why we need to put that lens on all policies. We will continue to do that and respond to my honourable colleague. In the meantime, we'll make sure that our gender-based violence strategy is implemented with $100.9 million so that women and girls in Canada can thrive.
The member for Lakeland.
Madam Speaker, yesterday the Public Safety Minister wrongly claimed recruitment and expansion justify the closure of CPC Vegreville. But here's the truth. Since 2013, over 600 applications came in for the 3 hiring drives. Today, the union for the majority of workers says having permanent positions, most aren't, there would help with retention. But what do they know? And they weren't even consulted. And nothing is stopping the Liberals from hiring in Edmonton right now. Will the minister do the right thing and reverse this mistake?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Madam Speaker, once again, our government has decided to make responsible decisions regarding services to Canadians. We've always been transparent on the costs of moving the centre. A letter was sent on March 1st with the exact numbers. The reality is that about 20% of positions are vacant. This move will help us to meet recruitment challenges and create additional jobs in Alberta. Once again, all of the employees will be able to keep their jobs.
Well, Madam Speaker, for months now, the Liberals have been dodging questions and making up excuses. They claim it will save money, but it's tens of millions more. They claim it's to expand, but the reality is Vegreville has room for the 32 more staff planned. The Liberals slag the employees, but the department itself says they are high performers, exemplary workers who always exceed departmental targets. No consultation, no transparency, no honesty. Will the minister admit this is an attack on middle-class rural Canadians and stop it now?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
To making responsible decisions that enhance services to Canadians and create jobs. Once again, we've always been upfront and transparent about the cost of the relocation. In fact, a letter, Madam Speaker, was sent from our department to the union dated March 1st, 2017, outlining the costs and the figures cited by the member opposite, Madam Speaker. The reality is about 20% again of available positions currently vacant. The move will address the long-standing staffing challenges, allow for an expansion of immigration operation, and create more jobs for Alberta, Madam Speaker.
The honour member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Madam Speaker, while the Environment Minister is forcing her carbon tax onto the provinces, the Minister of Transport has introduced a tanker ban that his own officials acknowledge targets just one industry. This is not a ban on tanker traffic, as they will continue to move up and down the coast of BC. It's a ban on Canada's resource development. Why are the Liberals continuing their blatant attacks on Western Canada's resource sector?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport.
Madam Speaker, our government is delivering on our promise to formalize a crude oil tanker moratorium along the north coast of British Columbia. This will protect this incredible environment that coastal and Indigenous communities call home, ensure clean water for our kids and grandkids. Our proposed legislation would prohibit oil tankers carrying crude and persistent oils as cargo from stopping, loading, unloading at ports and marinas and installations in northern British Columbia. Thank you.
The honourable member for Caribou Prince George.
Well, Madam Speaker, if the tanker ban wasn't bad enough, now we're being told to expect fisheries closures off the coast of British Columbia. We've heard from academics, scientists, industry, and fishermen at the Fisheries Committee. They've all said the same thing. The Liberal consultations are a sham and fail to take into account the economic, social, and environmental impacts of identifying marine protected areas. What does the minister have to say to the numerous witnesses who have all said that the Liberal plan on marine protected areas is going to be a disastrous failure?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Madam Speaker, our government is committed to increasing the proportion of marine and coastal areas that are protected from 5% this year and to 10% by 2020. We are going to achieve these targets with sound science, transparent decision-making. Indeed, Madam Speaker, we are consulting broadly. We are actively engaging with our partners in the provinces, territories, Indigenous people, and people in industry. And I think we can all be proud in British Columbia of the most recent MPA in the Hecate Strait and the Queen Charlotte Sound glass sponge reefs MPA that was designated just this year, Madam Speaker.
I just want to remind the member for Caribou Prince George he had the opportunity to ask the question without being disturbed, and I would expect that he respect the person that is responding to him as well. Questions and comments? The honourable member for Essex.
Madam Speaker, Canada is refusing to even match the U.S. investments in protecting the Great Lakes. People in my riding of Essex are concerned about the complete silence from the Liberal government when it comes to the water quality of Lake Erie. Algae blooms are negatively impacting the health of the lake, which our communities rely on for commercial fishing, tourism, and drinking water. Lake Erie has been in crisis before and deserves urgent protection to protect it now. The health of our communities is directly tied to the health of our lake. Will the Liberals step up and take a leadership role in protecting our treasured freshwater Great Lakes?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, we on this side of the House agree very much with many of the comments that were made by the Honourable Member. The Great Lakes is an incredibly important resource for many, both in Canada and the United States. It is an important recreational area for many people in Canada and in the United States, and some of the environmental challenges that exist in the Great Lakes, which have existed for some time, are very significant. In Budget 2017, you saw a significant expansion in funding going towards the Great Lakes to address issues like phosphorus and nitrogen runoff, which are causing some of the algae blooms that are particularly problematic in Lake Erie. We are committed to addressing the problems in the Great Lakes.
The member for Esquimalt-Saanich-Sooke.
Madam Speaker, LGBTQ Canadians are getting tired of waiting for real action to follow the selfies. Nearly a year ago, the government received briefs from groups representing those who were dishonorably discharged from the military or fired from the public service, asking for an apology. And just before he marched in Toronto Pride last year, the Prime Minister promised a formal apology for the harm done. Now, at the first anniversary of this promise, all we have is a re-promise, and those who have been waiting more than 25 years for justice have been told to wait again. Will the government finally keep this promise? Do they intend to make the apology or not?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence. Any man or woman serving his or her country deserves respect, regardless of sex or background. We are pleased to see the progress of the Canadian Forces to deal with sexual misconduct. There are solid training programs put in place, and reporting. The reports of sexual misconduct in the past that were dismissed are being looked at, and victims are getting better support.
Meadows Maple Ridge.
Madam Speaker, as chair of the Innovation, Science and Technology Committee, I was pleased to take our committee to Washington, D.C. earlier this month to meet with both business and government. It's so exciting to know that many of our companies have a strong relationship with our neighbors to the south. For most of the last 3 decades, trade has been an important part of that relationship. Only last year, U.S. goods and services trade with Canada totaled an estimated $627.8 billion U.S. dollars. Madam Speaker, can the Minister of Science and Innovation and Economic Development tell the House what he's doing to promote this mutually beneficial relationship on the ground?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I'd like to thank my colleague from Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge, for his hard work and leadership as the chair of the Innovation Committee. He is absolutely correct. Our trade is fair and balanced with our U.S. counterparts. And since NAFTA came into force, our economies have more than doubled. So it truly is a win-win situation. We have integrated economies, highly competitive, that allow us to compete globally. And I've shared this viewpoint with my counterparts and colleagues in Michigan, Colorado, California, and Nevada. We'll continue to work together, build things together, and create jobs on...
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Yesterday, the chair of our committee Transport and Infrastructure wrote to the Finance Committee stating that members of our committee agreed with the infrastructure bank's creation, which is completely false. But that's not the worst part. The chair sent a letter today, Wednesday. We had a committee meeting Thursday, but it was dated today. If that's not arrogance and contempt, I wonder what we're facing here. When will this government start respecting this institution and put an end to this ridiculous infrastructure bank?
Mr. Speaker, for almost a decade, the municipal sector has been neglected by the previous government. Our goal is to put forward an infrastructure plan that will help rebuild Canadian communities from coast to coast to coast. And the creation of the infrastructure bank will allow us to build more infrastructure by mobilizing private capital that will help us to build transformative infrastructure that our communities need and they deserve. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Signal Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Finance Committee is currently studying this budget bill, C-44. This omnibus bill, Madam Speaker, contains the Liberals' so-called infrastructure bank. And we've had several witnesses appearing before the committee who've studied this scheme and are testifying that this bank is being set up to invest in high-risk projects. So I'd like to ask the Minister of Finance, why is he gambling with $35 billion of hard-earned taxpayers' dollars?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Madam Speaker, I can assure the honourable member in this House that bank, before we undertake any project, will do the proper due diligence by the bank, by the private sector, by the municipal sector, by the provincial sector, people who will be involved in building those infrastructure. Our goal is to make sure that we're there to protect the public interest, to make sure that public dollars are protected, and on the other hand, also build the infrastructure that is required by our Canadian communities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Battlefords, Lloyd-Minster.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For more than a year now, Canadian citizens John Chang and his wife Alison Liu have been held in jail by China's General Administration of Customs. Their company, Lulu Island Winery BC, has successfully exported to China for some 6 years, so they know the system well. The arrest of Mr. Chang and Ms. Liu for a fabricated customs violation is an assault on their basic rights, a breach of China's international trade obligation, and China's own customs laws. This is clearly a trade issue, not a consular issue. Why won't the Prime Minister intervene in this new era of Canada-China relationship?
The honourable member, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to assure the honourable member and all Canadians that we are following this case very closely. And myself, I had the chance to meet with their daughter, and I spoke with the lawyers. Our government is highly engaged in this file. We are in constant contact with with Chinese local authorities, and we're making sure that we want to resolve this matter as quickly as possible. As you know, Madam Speaker, and as the honourable member knows, due to the Privacy Act, we cannot reveal further details about this matter.
The honourable member for Battlefords, Lloyd-Minster.
Well, privacy went out the window for the last 13 months, Madam Chair. The family and the Changs deserve a lot better from this government. They've been making application after application, talking about this as a trade issue, not a consular issue. They constantly get this consular issue drivel that really gets no result, gets no resolve done. This is now a matter of timing. 1 week from today, John Chang faces a closed court in Shanghai that will decide his fate. He's had 3 visits in the past 13 months from consular officials. That is just not good enough, Madam Speaker. Canadians deserve and expect a lot better than this from their government when they get in trouble.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Madam Speaker, Canadians know very well the track record of this government, this Prime Minister, when defending Canadians abroad. We will never turn our back on Canadians when they need our help abroad. We are very active on this file, Madam Speaker, and we will not stop until we resolve this matter.
The honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Madam Speaker, the Phoenix fiasco at its core is a scandal about the government not paying its employees. If this was any other workplace, this would have been solved months ago. But instead, the Liberal government's main response is to blame the Conservatives.
Right.
Well, it was this Liberal government who authorized the implementation of Phoenix, and it's this Liberal government who refuses to put in place a permanent solution. While workers are not getting paid, my question to the government, have they been paying IBM on time?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Services.
Madam Speaker, of course, this government is deploying all of the resources that it has at its disposal, both human and financial, in support of fixing these problems that were left to us by the Conservatives. I can assure the honourable member, in Saskatoon, in Saskatchewan, and right across this country, there are hundreds of public servants, hundreds of people working today at this very moment on resolving these problems that we are all very eager to resolve. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Madam Speaker, I found out this week that employees of the Drummond Institution got a letter asking them to reimburse emergency salary advances they received during the Phoenix pay system crisis. They all agree to reimburse the money, but what's unfortunate and shocking is that they're being asked to reimburse in a very short time frame without taking into account the fact that they're still owed money because of the Phoenix fiasco. Can the government admit its responsibility here and be more empathetic toward these employees who are victims of this scandal?
Secretary to the Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Madam Speaker, I can state that this government takes the problems associated with the Phoenix pay system very seriously. This was left to us by the opposition party. We are deploying all possible financial and human resources across the country, throughout Quebec, including in my riding of Gatineau, and I can assure public servants who are working on the system have been thanked, and I can thank all public servants across Canada. And I can assure them we will get a payroll system that meets our expectations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Canada has the third highest beer tax in the world, yet the Liberals' budget contains an escalator tax on beer sales. Thanks to this poorly thought-out scheme to fleece Canadians, every year on April 1st, the cost of beer will automatically increase. This tax will hurt consumers, brewers, and many other spin-off industries in Canada. Will the Liberals cancel this ill-thought-out, permanently increasing tax hike on beer?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Everyone in Canada should pay their fair share of taxes. Budget 2017 proposes to increase taxes on alcohol products, and the first increase, I might add, Mrs. Speaker, in over 30 years. The 2% increase amounts to about 5 cents per 24 bottles of beer. The inflationary adjustment will provide alcohol producers with greater certainty in the future and follow similar steps taken by many other provinces. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for York Simcoe.
The Liberal war on history continues. Groups celebrating our history in the 150th anniversary of Confederation have been told they can't. The Annapolis Valley Project, showcasing the region's contribution to Canada's founding, has been told no by Ottawa. Instead, Canada 150 funds, $500,000, went to former Liberal Cabinet Minister Ken Dryden for his project, a TV show modestly called We Are Canada, described as just tedious TV by the Globe and Mail. It was helpfully broadcast on the taxpayer-funded CBC. Why is this Liberal government taking money from community groups and giving it to former Liberal politicians?
The Honourable Minister of Heritage Canada.
Mr. Speaker, we're extremely proud of everything we're doing in line with Canada 150. We believe in the importance of our four themes: youth, environment, reconciliation with Indigenous people, and diversity and inclusion. And we want Canadians to be able to celebrate across the country. We want to make sure that all regions are adequately represented, that of course we are making sure that this process is non-partisan, and ultimately that this is the year to celebrate. And so let's celebrate Canada 150 all together. Thank you.
The honourable member for York Simcoe.
Liberals always find a way to take care of their friends. As we've seen this week,
No former Liberal cabinet minister is ever left behind. And when I commented that it was inappropriate for the CBC to receive Canada 150 funding on top of their annual $1 billion from the taxpayers, the CBC's taxpayer-funded lobbyists corrected me. The Canada 150 money went to Ken Dryden, not the CBC. In fact, the CBC paid even more tax dollars to the former Liberal minister's project. Why is it that the only history that can make it past the Liberal war on history is someone's past history as a Liberal minister?
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Mr. Speaker, as I already mentioned, we have 4 important themes in the context of Canada 150. And one of it, of course, is engaging with young people. We Are Canada was reviewed by my department and recommended as it met the eligibility criteria as a Canada 150 community project. And I really invite all members of this House to participate in Canada 150 projects because this is a great year for Canada. Yes.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Madam Speaker, this summer, as we celebrate Canada 150, the National Capital Region prides itself on welcoming tourists from across Canada and around the world. Be it the National Arts Centre, the National Gallery, restaurants, music festivals, museums, there is so much to see and do. The tourism industry supports over 13,000 jobs in our region. Will the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Small Business and Tourism please update this House on what our government is doing to support tourism in the National Capital Region and across the country?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Small Business and Tourism.
I thank my colleague for her passion and excellent work in the tourism industry.
Many communities have much to share with the world. Last week, the Minister of Small Business and Tourism announced Canada's new vision. This is our pan-Canadian approach to improving tourism marketing, making it easier to get here, developing new experiences such as Indigenous tourism, LGBTQ tourism, culinary tourism, and so much more. Canada's tourism industry is vital to our economy. It supports more than 1.7 million jobs, thousands of small businesses. I encourage everyone to explore not only the Ottawa...
Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Madam Speaker, the Minister of National Defence claims that the RCAF doesn't have the resources necessary to take care of its obligations towards NORAD and NATO simultaneously. But we found out that 6 CF-18s will be deployed in Iceland and then in Romania for another period. If there is a deficit in capacity, how can Canada give up 6 planes for such a long period? Was the minister the architect of the capacity deficit? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence. This is why we're considering having an interim fleet of 18 Hornets to increase the CF-18 fleet so until the permanent replacements are in place. Our needs for defence, both in the long term and short term, will always be fulfilled. The Honourable Member for Brossard-Saint-Lambert. Madam Speaker, this week is National Road Safety Week. As my colleagues know, impaired driving is a serious crime that kills and injures thousands of Canadians each year. In 2015, the police recorded 72,000 impaired driving incidents. 3,000 were directly related to drug consumption.
Justice, explain what our government is doing to address this serious issue of impaired driving and to make our roads safer for all Canadians.
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank my colleague from Brossard for her question and for her efforts in this case.
We are proud to have introduced Bill C-46, which will make Canada a world leader in the fight against alcohol and drug-impaired driving. The proposed legislation will reform the entire impaired driving regime in the criminal code. It will strengthen existing drug and alcohol-impaired driving laws by creating new offences and making the law more efficient to enforce, simpler and more coherent for all Canadians. For this year's National Safe Driving Week, I encourage all members of this House to work with our government.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Madam Speaker, since the Liberal government has been in power, the citizens of my riding have been afflicted by increases of taxes of all kinds. The cancellation of family activity tax credits, the addition of supplementary payroll taxes and new consumption taxes. Yesterday, the Liberals confirmed they will impose a carbon tax on all provinces. By 2022, the price at the pump will increase by 12 cents, which will increase the price of groceries. Will the Liberals stop this, or is it just the beginning? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, our government made a commitment to grow the economy, support the middle class, and those who are working hard to join it. The first thing the government did is offer a tax cut to the middle class, and then the opposition voted against that measure. We'd also increase taxes for the richest, and surprise once again, the opposition voted against it. We established the Canada Child Benefit. Once again, the opposition voted against it. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Thank you, Madam Speaker. While the government repeats that it's working very, very hard to counter tax evasion and tax avoidance, we found out that $231 billion went to tax havens last year. Barbados, Luxembourg, Cayman Islands, nothing's too beautiful for these profiteers. So I'd like to ask the government whether it's satisfied with its strategy to fight tax havens when we're talking about $231,000 million that is not being paid in tax.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Our government is fully committed to combating tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance. We know that we must work hard to ensure that our tax system is fair and responsive to all Canadians. That is why our government has made unprecedented investments in the Canada Revenue Agency. In our first budget, we invested $444 million, in addition to $524 million in budget 2017, Madam Speaker. This is to ensure that our actions are showing tangible results. Last year, our offshore and domestic audit activities enabled us to recoup $13 billion, Madam Speaker. We know we'll continue to work for Canadians. That's what Canadians expect. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Joliette. Madam Speaker, the government's great efforts are quite something. $231 billion in tax havens. That's almost two-thirds of the GDP of Quebec. In this regard, a former Liberal candidate, Marois Risky, said this in the Journal de Montréal about these great efforts by Ottawa. She says it's a masquerade, it's a dog's breakfast. She said this, Canada's asleep at the wheel. Why is the government content with running after small fry and allowing the sharks of finance do whatever they please?
To the Minister of National Revenue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, as I just stated, CRA continues to take important steps and is making progress in cracking down on tax cheats and ensuring a tax system that is more responsive and fair to all Canadians. In the last year budget, the agency has taken significant action on several fronts to identify and deal with tax cheats, building on the previous investment of $444 million, Madam Speaker. Budget 2017 invest an additional $524 million to crack down on tax evasion and improve compliance. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The government has reduced transfers in health care, and of course that has a direct effect on sick people. It has abandoned our cheese producers and refuses to provide loan guarantees to the forest industry that is facing a new softwood lumber crisis. It offers no improvement in regular employment insurance benefits. This government and the Minister of National Revenue is unaware that this laxist attitude and refusal to act this regarding KPMG or tax havens directly affects the sick, workers, and the unemployed. The Honourable
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Revenue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I said, our government is fully committed to combating tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance. We know that we must work hard to ensure that our tax system is fair and responsive to all Canadians. That's why our government has made unprecedented investments in the CRA. In our first budget, we invested $444 million in the CRA, and budget 2017, we added $524 million to better target high-risk taxpayers and to make sure that we have the best tools available at our disposal to close in the tax cheats. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Nunavut.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities. As highlighted in Mary Simon's recent report, there is a great need to develop criteria for Arctic infrastructure projects that reflect the uniqueness of the North. Improving water and wastewater management systems is an urgent infrastructure need that is important to the well-being and prosperity of Nunavut communities. The Minister recently visited Iqaluit and Pungnuktuk, and I was very pleased to join him in Iqaluit for an important funding announcement. Can the Minister inform the House of the government's infrastructure investments in Nunavut? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, as the Honourable Member mentioned, I was honoured to visit Nunavut and announced alongside with the territorial government and the Honourable Member $230 million in joint funding for 9 projects that will help 19 communities to deal with waste management systems, improve wastewater quality, as well as make further investments to improve the water quality in those communities. We're very proud to be investing and making investments in Nunavut, and we'll continue to work with our partners to build stronger communities in the North. Thank you, Madam.
A point of order, the Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Thank you, Madam Speaker. A point of order. Earlier, during question period, I asked a question concerning women victims of family violence. The Minister of Status of Women, in her answer, started by saying, "Happy Friday." That was a very serious question, Madam Speaker. A question that required a very serious answer. For women who hear that, well, they're going to think that the Minister doesn't take... I appreciate the comments from the Honourable Member for Hochelaga. However, that is more a point of debate than a point of order. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you, Madam Speaker. A point of order. Earlier, in the heat of the action in question period, I used a word which was not appropriate, and I would like to make the following correction. I spoke about a carbon lottery. I should have talked about the carbon market.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.